Well, it's high time for my whirlwind comeback, and what better topic than a company that everyone hates? For those of you that didn't know, or blocked it out of pure rage, EA's Battlefront 2 is a horrible, grindy, pay-to-win Ponzi scheme, and nobody is happy with it. Now, I have quite given up on convincing Electronic Arts not to take part in draconian anti-consumer business practices. YouTubers with far more clout than I have tried and failed. After all, King Solomon said that if you give a fool advice, he will despise the wisdom of your words. No, this is for those rushing to the defense of EA. Believe it or not, there are corporate slaves and blind fanboys that actually defend this rubbish. Now, this isn't a direct response to any of them, but really all you need to do is line out everything EA did to the Battlefront franchise. What they've done deserves no excuse or defense. It's just laughable. Now we shall start with the release of the Battlefront remake. This is important because it was a bit disappointing and seriously lacking in content. EA responded with the usual false promises that they would do better next time. But this time it was for serious, ham slice. Now, Electronic Arts took particular note of the complaint that Battlefront lacked a significant single-player campaign. They weren't gonna make that mistake with the sequel. They just make about a dozen more! First of all, they only made one campaign. The Star Wars game Galactic Battlegrounds had not one, not two, not three, but 6 campaigns, with 2 more available as DLC later. Oh, now you may claim that Battlefront being a different genre gives it a separate standard, but classic Battlefront had 2 campaigns, and its sequel had 4. And these were campaigns that spanned the various eras of the Star Wars franchise. Imagine that! Now, you might be able to justify having a single campaign in this game, if it is a particularly good one. But that wasn't going to happen! DICE clearly had a good idea, but they weren't allowed to do anything with it. Several missions are clearly trimmed down or cut altogether, so EA doesn't have to spend much money on making an actual video game. The campaign can be completed easily in less than 4 hours, and is filled with plot holes so big, so enormous you could build a 3rd Death Star in them. You want examples? Well, you got it. At the start of the game, our main character, what's her name? Oh wait, I don't care, is captured by the rebellion and escapes because the rebellion, the ones who are going to win the Galactic Civil War, leave her comlink with her in the south. Just let that sink in for a moment. Even dumber than that, somehow, is that the Empire's plan after the Battle of Endor is to build weather lasers they can use to glass the surface of a planet. Guess what their first target is? A planet loyal to the Empire! Even more insulting is that this was a plan Darth Sidious came up with. I thought the character assassination of Luke Skywalker was bad. Clearly, this campaign was only funded by EA to be a selling point. They didn't care if it told an interesting story, was enjoyable, or if DICE had some sort of vision for it. All they wanted was for there to be some cinematic cutscenes they could use to fool gamers into thinking this game had a proper campaign. But that also explains why all the original trilogy characters are shoehorned into the campaign regardless of what sense it makes. Remember when The Force Unleashed used beloved characters in the Star Wars universe in ways that made sense? Why am I missing the days when George Lucas wrote awkward romance and odd diatribes about sand? This is what Star Wars has become, I guess. But ruining the single player wasn't the only thing EA did. They couldn't be satisfied charging you $60 for an incomplete game and even more for a season pass. They had to put microtransactions into the multiplayer too, because not paying for a proper single player campaign is expensive, I guess. Now, it is not just that there are microtransactions in the game. It is not just that the game has loot boxes. It is not just that the game was made by EA. Oh, no. This game was designed in the most sinister way possible. We're going to start from the top and work our way down, because we have a lot to unpack here. Not only are these loot boxes, these are the worst boxes to be looted in the history of loot boxes. Considering Activision, that's saying a lot. Loot boxes are quite despised by gamers, so saying these are the worst is saying a lot. How did EA manage that? Well, other companies take part in loot boxes, but they strictly avoid putting progression items in them, as that could damage the delicate balance of the multiplayer. So usually they just put aesthetic items that largely don't affect gameplay, and just annoy us in general. But why didn't EA do this? Well, Blake Jurgensen's excuse went something like this.
One thing we're very focused on, and they are extremely focused on, is not violating the canon of Star Wars. It's an amazing brand that's been built over many, many years. And so, if you did a bunch of cosmetic things, you might violate the canon, right?
Yeah, wouldn't want to violate the canon in a game where you can put Kylo Ren against Master Yoda, now would you?
Darth Vader in white probably doesn't make sense versus black. Not to mention you wouldn't want Darth Vader in pink.
That tells you all you need to know about the insane level of disrespect they have for Star Wars and the fandom that loves it. White Darth Vader is actually very popular in the fandom, and saying it doesn't make sense is a slap in the face to the fans that love Star Wars. As far as not wanting Vader in pink, well, the mods did it just to spite this Muppet, and he looks fabulous. The real reason EA made it so that progression items in this game called Star Cards were in the loot boxes was to make a pay-to-win system that could generate more revenue for them. How it works is that each loot box has a random assortment of Star Cards, and maybe a hero card if the Force is with you, and you have to level up each Star Card individually, because of course you do. And getting a duplicate won't level up the card, because that would make too much sense. With 67 different kinds of Star Cards to micromanage across your classes, getting the exact configuration you want is a nightmare. It's all boring busy work designed to frustrate you into buying your way to the top. The whole game is, as Admiral Akbar said,
it's a trap.
Oh, but wait, it gets worse. Now, in a good game, think about how you would get currency for the progression, the EXP or whatever. Well, usually it would be through winning matches, scoring points, perhaps achievements, generally being good at the game. Not the case in this one. Apparently Starlight Glimmer went prancing along through, making sure no one would be special. You could just start a match and then go do the dishes or something. No need to actually try. This is a game that doesn't encourage you to get good at it. It encourages you to waste your time getting killed over and over by overpowered heroes to frustrate you into buying loot boxes. Oh, but it gets worse. I actually did the math and adjusted for how much getting the extra credits through microtransactions cost and how much the credits you have to spend on the loot boxes to find out how much the loot boxes are worth in real world money. The cheapest one is $2.50. In comparison, Overwatch loot boxes are valued at about $1, and that's the cheapest loot box in Battlefront. There are two more tiers even more expensive than that. And then there are the hero cards that cost about 60,000 in-game credits for paid customers to unlock. Oh, but review copies had it at the lower cost of 10,000. EA literally gave the reviewers a different game to trick them into giving the game a higher score, to trick players into buying this garbage. Now, I have very little respect for video game journalists, but this is a seriously scummy move on the part of EA. Remind me why this game is worth defending. They're literally making enemies out of everyone. At this point, defenders of the game will probably say something akin to, "It only takes 40 hours, which completely misses the point. Most people don't have time to play a video game like it's a full-time job. And even if someone did have a weekend to do nothing but play video games, there are over 64,000 video games that exist. Why pick this one when there are so many other options? I've played FTL for over 40 hours because it's incredibly challenging. I've played Persona 4 The Golden over 40 hours because I love the characters and the story. I've played Breath of the Wild over 40 hours because everything. I've played Honey Pop for over 40 hours because I like puzzles. Well, you get the idea. There are far better games, even in the same genre, franchise, and series, as EA's Battlefront 2. You could compare it to any game and make the other look better by comparison. Yeah, E.T. may have been a garbage game that brought the console market to a crash, but at least it didn't sell you loot boxes. 10 out of 10, we'll dig out of landfill again. The worst part about all of this has been EA's attitude about it. They made a Reddit post with the usual excuses, and it is the most downvoted post in the site's history. Oh, but even after that, after it was made clear that gamers were beyond tired of all their sick excuses, EA still tried to spin a hilarious sub-story about how they didn't make enough money off the game. Oh, and did they blame themselves for implementing such a broken system? Nope! They blamed us for noticing and complaining. Oh, but go on and defend these people that actively hate you and everything you love, fanboys. That sounds like a great idea. It's not all bad. Politicians are now on a crusade against loot boxes because they're essentially gambling. EA's exploitive and predatory microtransactions take advantage of gambling addictions and naive children. The opinions on gambling may vary, but just about everyone with liberal values agrees that at least there should be an age limit. An adult can be held responsible for their own money. A child cannot. For once, politicians want to pass bills restricting gaming aspects that gamers actually agree with. The ESRB is way ahead of them, though, and now requires games to label themselves properly if they include gambling with real-world money. Also, rumor has it that Disney is very upset with EA as well. Makes sense because they only released 2 Star Wars games in 5 years. Even if you include the game they cancelled, that's criminally low for a publisher with over 20 studios under them. On top of that, both the games they released were not well received, and one is tied to a legal scandal. It would be weird if Disney didn't care about any of this. Word has it that Disney is talking to Ubisoft and Activision about the possibility of a future deal when the contract with EA expires. While you might shudder at the thought of those greedy companies publishing Star Wars games, they'd at least be better than EA or Konami. And Disney refusing to renew EA's contract because of poor performance would make them take more care with the franchise. Hopefully. Until that happens, it looks like I won't buy another Star Wars game. I have finally had enough, and I am boycotting EA. It's a shame because I would have liked to buy the Mass Effect trilogy, but there are more important things at stake than my personal gratification. My money wouldn't go to BioWare anyway. It would go to greedy businessmen that don't care about gaming. I won't be satisfied until Andrew Wilson and his ilk are fired and unable to work in this industry ever again. Well, I think that was clear enough. What are your thoughts? Are you boycotting EA? Was I the one that convinced you? Or did something they did previously do the trick? Probably the latter. If you had to pick one company to publish Star Wars games, which would it be? I'd have to go with Bethesda, but I don't have all the answers. Only 48% of them.